Hi everyone, welcome to our end of week 3 video. It's lovely to see you all again.
Hello everyone, we're doing something a little bit different today in the end of week video because Lindsay's in Madrid and I'm in Cambridge, and so we're doing this end of week video online.
We are, and we're using Zoom to do it, aren't we, Marie Therese? And we're recording it, so we're using the record tool and we're using one of our platforms to record this in.
Absolutely, and I'm practicing wait time so that I don't talk over Lindsay. And Lindsay has been naughty because she forgot her headset and microphone, so she's just going to do it without it, but it sounds all right to me. Hope it sounds all right to you.
Yeah.
So Lindsay, we had this week was about productive skills.
It was, yeah, and we started off talking about speaking and looking at how we might teach speaking online. And we saw a couple of examples of lessons, didn't we? We saw Christina and the lovely Kayo with a one-to-one speaking lesson.
Absolutely. And
Alexandrina said that she really liked the lesson. She thought that she enjoyed the simple and confident way that Christina conducted it.
Absolutely. And then we had a group lesson with Ina teaching her a group of business people from nearby, I think. And we had Steve who commented on that, and he said, oh, how I look forward to being as comfortable with the platform as Ina.
Yeah, that made me laugh.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but it's possible, entirely possible. It just comes with practice, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
We talked about group cohesion, and people talked about the sort of possible problems that you might have with group cohesion. One thing that Fabiano talked about was, having a domineering student, but people were offering solutions, weren't they? So we can, for example, use the hands up option and make students, put their hands up so that you can then nominate somebody, or you can get students used to nomination. Or maybe you could, if you have to, you could tell students that you're going to only have the microphone open of the learner that you want to speak, so you can sort of mute everybody, and then a student who wants to speak but is mute won't be heard, so
sure.
They dominate. So there are options, aren't there?
That's right. And we also had Alonso, who talked about the problems of having mixed ability learners in one class, which actually is perfectly possible if you have a group of businessmen or business people working from the same office, that you'll have people whose English is very good and people who's not very good. But actually, I think online provides real opportunities for dealing with mixed ability, for scaffolding weaker learners, and for also challenging stronger learners. Because the chat box can be used by the teacher to direct comments specifically to individuals. So do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, because you can, in Zoom, for example, you can send messages directly to the student, can't you, in the chat box? So you could say to a student, if you need some help, here's some useful prompts or useful phrases to use. Or for stronger students, you could add in language that you want them to use to sort of challenge them. And they don't necessarily know who else has had that message, do they? In a face-to-face classroom, you have to actually give a student a piece of paper if you want to single students out like that, and so it's sort of more obvious. So in a way, online, like you say, it's kind of actually quite helpful to have that chat box.
Absolutely. And so also, but also I think I was Tina or Tina had a really good suggestion, because we had some comments also about what to do about with young learners, for example, with undisciplined young learners or not very well motivated. And she made a suggestion about giving the learners the possibility of making some rules. So they make the rules. And she said that given an opportunity to express what they expect of the interactions throughout the course will give them security and confidence. So they decide the rules, and so they're more likely to abide by them, I guess, is the thinking. And it's a good idea, I think.
I agree, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then we talked about correction of speaking correction, and we talked about writing correction, but we'll come on to writing in a little while. But correcting speaking, and we had that the activity where they had we asked the participants to fill in a Word doc in real time, and I think Jose summed this up really well. It's Jose. He said that taking notes was easy. The actual typing the errors was not a problem. What was a problem was deciding which mistakes you would share with the students and how you would praise them as well. And I think that's the bit that makes you the teacher, rather than just the typist.
Yeah.
And Lindsay, I think we were having a conversation before about categorizing errors, and I think everybody'd be interested to know what you were sharing with me earlier about that.
Well, yeah, some people in the comments were saying that they like to group the comments, and I think that is quite helpful. I think one of the things we need to do is to help students to prioritize the key areas that they need to work on, don't we? So we can pull out the errors that sort of fit into that priority, not just asking them to correct lots of errors, but 2 or 3 key areas, and then if we group them on the board, they can start to see the patterns, or we can ask them to look and notice, what do you notice about those 5 errors that we made, and these 3 here, and get them to sort of to think, oh yeah, they're prepositions, okay, so this is an issue for me, and that can help them, I think.
So yeah, interesting. And then we looked at a few tools, didn't we, for speaking?
Did. Yeah, Elizabeth said she had a blast working on Voki, yeah, we had quite a few teachers that added voice messages to our Padlet, so thank you very much for that.
David,
oh, sorry, go on.
I was going to say we had David who didn't add a message because he couldn't get Voki or whichever to work, but he gave us a doodle, so that was really nice.
Oh, thank you very much, David. Yeah, thank you. We were going to talk, weren't we, about how we actually implement these tools, because it's all very well kind of, having Voki or having Padlet, but how do we actually integrate them into a course? If you had a one-to-one lesson, for example, what would you do, Marie Therese?
Well, I think that the student would probably do the recording. We would perhaps do a bit of language work in the lesson, and then they would do some recording at home, either on Voice Spice or Voki or whatever. And then I would listen to it in advance of the lesson and prepare some feedback to give them. I think the voice recording tools are really, really useful for helping with pronunciation. So you can identify areas of pronunciation, get the students to listen to what they have said, and then try and fix that, because it's probably a physical problem. It's probably something to do with their mouth, something to do with their creating a sound that perhaps is unfamiliar in their own language. And so you can really work on that. And then they can go home and do the recording again. I think students can practice things, record it, listen to themselves, do it again. But with a group, would you like to talk about a group and using recordings?
Yeah, well, I set speaking homework a lot, even in my face-to-face lessons too. But it's it's a great opportunity for learners to practice speaking outside the classroom, and then I get them to actually listen to usually at least 3 others, and then they have some kind of task. So if students are talking about an amazing weekend they had, then they might listen to 3 others and decide which was the most amazing and why, and then they'll come back into the classroom and feed back on that, so that they know that it's an important part of the course. It's not just if you do it, you do it. If you don't, it doesn't matter. But you bring it into the classroom, and like you say, you feed back on it. So you provide feedback, or you get the learners to notice. Perhaps they pick up on a couple of things that they found that were incorrect, and a couple of pieces of language that they thought that the people they heard used really well, something like that. So we have some peer feedback.
And then the second part of the week we talked about writing. And we had some questions. I think maybe this week we'll do another different thing. Maybe we'll incorporate the questions into talking about writing, because quite a lot of the questions were about writing. And we had Nicoletta, I think it was, asked about writing activities. So, what kind of tasks would you set your learners? And I think that again, it's similar really to a face-to-face classroom, is that you would try and set things that have a communicative focus and where there's an audience. And I think online teaching lends itself also to online writing. So, the social media, there's Facebook, there's Instagram. Get students involved in that, in a subject that interests them. Get them responding to blogs, maybe even creating your own blog, creating a class blog, and getting students to contribute to that and to prepare texts to add. What do you think?
I think that's a really good idea, yeah. And they can also, send messages to each other. If you have one-to-ones, you could maybe still create a little key pal or whatever they're called, where you might have two students that we write to each other. So for example, you know, they could one could write and invite another one to do something, and the other one then replies and says, I'm really sorry, I can't come, or whatever you direct them to do. But
fantastic.
it creates a nice functional practice of, you know, real life communication.
Yeah, and Edmodo is quite a good tool for that, isn't it? Where Edmodo is a bit like Facebook, but it would be, you don't have the outside people, you just have you and your students. The last thing we were going to look at is a question really from a couple of participants, Nicholas and I think Sheena asked as well, about the tool that, because you gave feedback on one of the steps to a writing task that your student had done, and you did a screencast, and people are asking, what was the tool that you used and how did you do it? So without taking 300 years, could you tell us?
Okay, so the tool that I use to give oral feedback on written work is a tool called Screencast-O-Matic. It is a website where you can join for free, and you get, I think, up to 10 minutes or 15 minutes for free. Your video is watermarked with a logo, but that's fine if you're just giving feedback to your learners. Basically, you open up the document with the student writing on, you open up the screencast program, you press record, and it will record your voice and whatever is happening on your computer screen, i.e. when you're correcting the errors. You then save the video in the cloud and you share a link to your student. So if you want to know how to use Screencast-O-Matic, if you go to YouTube and you search for Screencast-O-Matic tutorial, you'll be able to find a lot of tutorials. Choose something that's fairly recent in the last year or so, because the tool, you know, changed, probably hasn't changed in the last couple of years, but just to make sure it's up to date, and that will help you to understand how to use it.
Yeah, I did that, and I found a tutorial from 2017, and it was real good. Yeah. So there you are. One last thing we were asked about, what about students in online classes? We get people to type all the time. In real lessons and sometimes in exams, they have to handwrite. So panic, what shall we do?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah.
Well, I think students we can get them to handwrite, can't we? They handwrite homework, and then they take a photograph of it or they scan it.
Yeah, and they send it to you.
And you can then, provide corrections. So you can actually, if you have a good PDF reader, then you can usually correct within that. So that's
sure, or just do your Screen-O-Matic thing.
Yes, you can do that. Absolutely. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, Lindsay, I think we better wrap up.
We had. Can I just say one last thing though? One thing. One thing I'm really enjoying on this course is how supportive people are in the comments. And,
I agree.
And in the world of social media where people are not always very nice, it's just so lovely to be working with such kind, supportive, helpful colleagues. So thank you very much.
I totally agree. And actually people have shared so much of their own experiences. And every now and then you get somebody that says, oh, I don't have any experience of teaching online. And it's absolutely fine, because you've come to the right place, guys. There's so many people that are sharing their experiences. And thank you so much also for the kind comments about so many people say they're enjoying the course. We're enjoying it tremendously, I have to say.
We are, yeah.
And next week.
One more week.
Next week.
So we'll see everyone then, I guess. Yeah. So
next week, Lindsay, what's on next week?
Oh, what's on next week? We are looking at teaching language, and we're looking at how to set up your business and to develop professionally. So we look forward to seeing you then.
Absolutely. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye. See you.